and others who helped out along the way. Daryl, you tell me. We had talked a little while ago about what might be a little longer time with the project team, but then also a more condensed version that would be best for perhaps public consumption. Just trying to hit some of the highlights. What would be best for our time here together today?
I would say highlights. I guess we didn't finish the round of introductions, but as I survey the participants that's on, we have a few members of our Urban Main Street Committee, actually the chairperson, Selena Rogers Dickerson, and we have a new property owner on the call. So I think the quick and dirty version would probably be better. And then we can elaborate where we need to, but since Adrienne Newton, who is on the call, she recently acquired the Doubletree property here in the district, the Yay Man building. She will be getting her first flyby and deep dive of some opportunities. So I'm sure she may have some questions. And then we have TJ Fincher, who is our executive partner from Alabama Power on the call as well. So let's the condensed version, but that'll leave time for questions and deep dives as we need them.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So the deep dive, quick, dirty version means we have about 130, 140 slides to go through in maybe 30 minutes or so. But those of you who have been with me before know that I'm up to that challenge. So I'm just gonna dive in and I'll try to hit the highlights without going too far off track here. I get a little bit excited when we talk about data and numbers and opportunities, as you know, but I've got Mary here to keep me corralled and keep the squirrels out of my way. So speaking of Mary, thank you to Mary in Main Street, Alabama, of course, for the chance to work with you. And kudos to the 140 people who chimed in along the way. The consumer survey had a nice sample, nice representation. It wasn't just the number, but looking at the diversity of the mix as well was really healthy. And so that input, along with information that we were able to mine from a business assessment that was done just 2.5 years ago, I believe it was, really does provide a basis for upwards of 35, 40 different ideas and recommendations that coming out of the study. And everything was wonderful, and then something happened, as you all know, and that would be COVID-19, obviously. And something has happened again. For our part, one of the things that we did is the PowerPoint presentation that we put together 6 weeks ago got totally scrapped. And Mary can attest to this. So to us, it was really important that rather than just talking about what might have been some of those opportunities identified as part of the study, that we bring it into context in terms of what we're dealing with right now, today. And so, yes, the ideas and some of the recommendations coming out of the study certainly still apply. Some can still apply in the short term, and we're actually going to focus on those today. And while others will certainly have more impact as we think longer term, and I'll touch on just a couple of those in our short time here today. So for our part, we've tried to put the numbers and put the ideas in context. And so, we haven't been standing still. It was just about 5, maybe 6 weeks ago that we launched Reopen Main Street. And it's a special project. We called it a special project of Downtown Professionals Network. That's the firm that I'm with. And we didn't realize at the time just how special on so many different levels it would be. And I just thought it was important that you all know this actually grew out of a phone call that I had from Mary. It was all of a 2-minute phone call, but it went something like, "Hey, Jay, I'm getting a lot of questions on reopening strategies. Do you know anyone? Have any ideas?" And Mary knows me well enough that after we hung up the phone, I went to work. And it wasn't just me. I think it's also good for you to know that it does have a very strong Alabama influence. As you look at the supporting cast there, you'll notice a good number of friends that joined us and helped us along the way from Alabama. So um, it only made sense as we begin to think about the context of some of the ideas, the opportunities that we want to pose, that we look in the context of where we are today, and then think perhaps longer term about some of those opportunities that might arise in the future. So in the short time that we have here today, I'm just going to share some ideas that fall under three overarching ideas or common threads. We'll talk a little bit about communications and ramping those communications up. This whole idea of experimenting, which I'm a huge advocate of using this time to experiment, and then talk about some of those opportunities that may present themselves even today as we're working through this mess. But let's start with communications and this importance of being that hub of district communications. And here I get to say that we challenged you and the other communities we're working with right now to be that hub, to ramp it up. And we're seeing you do that already. It becomes so important as you identify with being that go-to source of information and resources for the district. And I love the way that you're partnering up and sharing that information from a number of different sources. I love the blacklisted idea. I mean, just a lot of good examples. And I wasn't surprised. You have been doing a lot in terms of positioning the organization to play this pivotal role with the work that you've been doing. And I say you, Daryl, Elijah, Ivan, the entire team at Urban Impact as part of the emphasis over the past year and a half or so. There is some good information as you move forward that comes directly from the market study. Throughout the course of this presentation, you'll see that gold banner up there with market insights and directions. That's where we're applying some of what we've learned to some of the strategies that you can begin implementing even now, or that you are implementing, and maybe think about how you might tweak those to make them even better moving forward. So as an example here, we asked the survey respondents to identify those sources of information for Birmingham news and information, and you can see that breakdown here with social media being right up at the top. You're doing such a good job in that regard that I'm not going to suggest that there's still more, but the one thing I would say, and it's just because I haven't been perhaps in the loop as much as I would like to be in all of our communities, is don't purely substitute that electronic communication that happens online for that personal contact, that personal communication. And the downtown business huddle that they're doing in Lansing, Michigan is a good example where they're using the same kind of technology, just to continue to get together on a periodic basis with business owners and property owners to talk about the issues and how we might be able to work together. We even went so far as to say, pull something out of the old school marketing book, if you will. Simply make that list of your top 10 or 20 clients, and maybe it's for Urban Impact, that list of property owners and members. Not that you're going to make that call, be able to call them every day and every week, but just pick up the phone and make that call. The comforting voice that they hear at the other end of the line right now is so important as we think about how we move through this mess together. And do be sure that you're publicizing the actions that Urban Impact is taking. A good example of that applies to this whole idea of enhancing the comfort level. And I'm sure that you've seen studies like this one from Lapeer, Michigan, which demonstrates that even though we go into these different reopening phases, it's not a matter where we're going to be flipping the switch and everyone's going to come rushing back and doing business like they used to. This study from Lapeer demonstrates that about 38% of folks said, yeah, we're ready to jump right back in. But that means there's 62% that are going to take a wait and see approach, or they're going to wait a little while before they test the waters. And that's very consistent with studies that we're seeing from across the country in communities of all sizes, where anywhere from about 60 to 70% of survey respondents are saying, we're going to wait. We're going to wait and see, or we're just going to wait until we're absolutely comfortable. This is not news. Dr. Birx, who I greatly admire, even a couple of months ago, talked about how social distancing will continue even after any guidelines might be retired or eased back. So think about those things that you might be able to do together, and this is both urban impact, but working with the businesses, working with property owners to enhance that comfort level. And again, understanding that there are some that are going to be more hesitant to join the fray. Let's do everything that we can to assure them that we're acting together as a community to make sure that when they come to the district, they're going to experience the district in a way that's still safe and that feels comfortable again. People are going to be searching for that comfort level. So there's things you can do with graphics, those prototypes from Michigan and their Reopen campaign are some examples. I love what they're doing in Jasper, where literally they're using barrels, kegs, to show appropriate social distancing. And do be thinking about what you might do to rekindle those magic memories of the district to enhance that comfort level, but also set the expectations for what we expect of our friends and clients as they would begin to return to the district. And make sure that you're illustrating that experience, the actions that you're taking now, the fact that we are here, we're open, we're ready to greet you, and just showcase what's happening, what you're doing in the district to welcome them back. Illustrating that experience, using these images, using them on social media as part of your messaging, because it becomes so important, again, to help overcome this hesitation that some will have to return to the district. So I want to move into experimentation, and I want to suggest a few things to you that apply again directly to some of the information that we mined as part of the study. For example, when we asked those taking the survey to assign a priority level ranging from 0 to 5 in terms of a number, 1 to 5, we gave them a choice of, I believe, 4 or 5 different options. Tell us, what is your level of priority you would place on these? Here's an example. We made the statement: improve streets, sidewalks, lighting, furnishings, green spaces, trails, etc. So the top score that any item could get would be 5. And that's if every single person that responded to the survey said, that's a high priority, that's a 5. So when you begin seeing these numbers of 4.5 in the 4.5 range, that is really strong. So think about this in terms of how that might even apply as we think about public spaces today and this period that we're in. There are some who have gone so far as to suggest that recovery will happen in the public spaces of our district. And it reminded me of some of the work that has already been done in the district, including by some members of our resource team from late last year. This sketch from Randy Wilson demonstrates what can happen in those public spaces. This rendering, and I apologize, I don't even know who produced this, but it came directly from Urban Impact and some work that I believe was done within the last couple of years, shows how that public space not only can help in terms of creating this environment that's comfortable, that helps accommodate social distancing, but in this case, can also throw a lifeline to businesses that are able to expand beyond their interior footprint, especially during these reopening phases, as the capacities might be anywhere from 25 to 50% during these initial opening phases. So it can help throw a lifeline to some of our businesses. And again, think about all the public spaces and how we might be able to maximize those. Even Triangle Park, which Michael Schroeder from our team had some simple ideas in terms of how that space might be enhanced, how Eddie Kendrick Park might serve to take away some of the barriers to actually using the park and making that a usable space. And even that idea of expanding into the sidewalk or into the parking lanes to, again, throw a lifeline in some cases to some of our businesses. And Randy Wilson, of course, showed that example just down the street at Dawson. So this idea of these ideas that in some cases we aren't talking large dollars, not only help in terms of creating this comfortable, welcoming environment as folks come back, but again, can help throw a lifeline out to some of our businesses. In terms of priorities, number one out of those four options was restoring and preserving the district's historic character. I can't tell you how this warmed my heart to see this, because it's like, y'all get it, right? The folks that were participating in the survey, they get it. This is our secret sauce. It's the thing that we have to continue to hold on to. And it can apply certainly to the public spaces. It also applies to those buildings that serve as to help frame the environment. And there's already some things that have been talked about, some proposals that have been floated out there that respond very nicely to what respondents identified as being most important in terms of priority. And again, some other ideas that show how we might be able to make stronger connections to not just the physical features, but the stories, that rich culture and history that are, again, the secret sauce. That is the district that we need to hold on to. The resource team provided a number of different ideas in terms of how that might actually manifest itself in the district. So would certainly point you back there, and do be thinking right now in terms of what might be some opportunities to start introducing even some smaller scale and low cost or no cost types of improvements in the district. Have to talk about events too, because in the Main Street world, this becomes really important as part of our 4-point strategy. So when we asked, again, our consumer survey respondents to tell us their level of agreement with 10 different statements, we made the statement, special events create vibrancy in the district. And you can see it was number one out of those 10 different statements at 4.26. Again, really strong. Also, of all of those different consumer survey respondents, 50%, 1 in 2, said that they had visited the district for festivals and events within the past year. And you think about that, what that looks like, and this idea of people coming together and celebrating and being this place. It's really heartbreaking to think right now that as much as we want that to happen, it's going to happen in a different way as we progress through the different reopening phases. So experiment, adapt, and I get it, just how difficult this is, because being part of Main Street in urban Maine, we all know how important that is. And we even go so far as to say something like Rock Springs, Wyoming, we work hard to make downtown or our district a community gathering place. And now you have to add this big old asterisk next to it. We do that in groups of 10 or less, right? Yeah, as this rolls out, there will be that place. And I have no doubt that we have examples in the district of some virtual events that have happened either on a district-wide basis or that different businesses have rolled out during these original reopening periods. There's a lot of good examples out there. But as we think about the phases that reintroduce events to the district, there certainly could be opportunities to introduce some small scale events and entertainment. And as you think about what could happen in Eddie Kendrick Park, and think about what could happen at Triangle Park, and just sporadically, randomly in the district, this could be very cool. It's almost this organic kind of entertainment that can just pop up and treat folks, give them a surprise when they come down and re-experience the district again throughout the different reopening phases. And here's a great example. I guess this was just a couple of weeks ago in Huntsville. They rolled out this new concert series that does just that. It introduces this small scale kind of entertainment throughout the district. And do infuse art. There are districts, different districts across the country where, to some extent, art was the driving force of the Renaissance that happened in these districts. So do be thinking about how we infuse art like they took the opportunity to do in South Huntsville, and how we can use art. And I think maybe this is especially true right now, today, how we can use art to send a message. And here I am talking about and showing these great examples. And here's a great example from your district. So I can't tell you again, when I found this, I was just like, yay, they get it, right? But it's not, it's awesome that you just intrinsically got it. But the fact that now you have this data and you can show and demonstrate how this is working as a vital part of our reopening strategies moving forward, not only gives you a chance to experiment, but in some ways helps set the tone for long-term enhancements and improvements in the district. This third area that we want to touch on is this whole idea of seizing on opportunities. And here's where I'm going to have a few more numbers than images in some cases, but I promise you there won't be any math, at least not for you today. But as we do think about these opportunities, I always want to start right here. It's with the folks that have already made the investment, that are part of the fabric, that are part of the history and part of the culture. These are our very best opportunities in terms of positioning the district and thinking about how these people can drive opportunity moving forward. So this is a big deal. It goes all the way back. What got my attention was this report that came from Brookings back on April 3rd, almost 2 months ago already. As we're thinking about reopening strategies, again, this is the one that really got my attention because this study, briefly summarized in the Brookings article, identified all of the different business types by SIC code, that number that you see there on the left, and then assigned a risk level to each one of those. I just pulled out these because in many cases, these and a few others really do represent the businesses that populate our districts today. So this becomes really scary when you think about immediate risk. And let me say, I certainly recognize too, while some have called COVID-19 the great equalizer, it's not true, because it's even more severe in districts like 4th Avenue District in Birmingham. So again, it's going to be really important, and I'm glad to see that you're already doing it, that we share this information. And I will go so far as to say that I have been impressed by the city of Birmingham and the different organizations in Birmingham, how they have come together and have taken the lead in creating different kinds of programs to help our businesses through this mess. Also be thinking about how might we be able to share some of this information that could help some of our businesses perhaps get a stronger footing in the marketplace. And here's one example. When we asked consumers, which social media and online shopping sites or apps do you regularly use? Well, you can see Amazon, 81%, even a larger footprint than Facebook at 66%. So be thinking in terms of, are there opportunities for our existing businesses to better capitalize and connect with the market using these different features? One thing I will say, I even went so far as to suggest in the report that maybe this is an opportunity to think about locating an Amazon hub or an Amazon locker in the district. the idea being is that we can capitalize on some of this action that Amazon gets by virtue of our clients, our customers, and friends being able to pick up those purchases at a locker or a hub within the district. Quite frankly, if I was still a retailer, and I was a retailer in a former life, if I was still a retailer, I think I even told Mary, the first thing I would be doing right now is I'd be trying to figure out, do I have room to accommodate one of these Amazon hubs or Amazon lockers? Because I would want to capture that traffic that could be generated. Also be thinking about that entrepreneurial support system. And again, what Urban Impact has been doing, what the city of Birmingham has been doing, in many ways has put you ahead of the curve. But it becomes important as we think about what's happening right now, today. A number of our friends have been laid off. Maybe they've been furloughed. Maybe they lost their job and they're just not sure what the longer term prospects look like. So we have a chance to tap into what I believe could be the largest pool of entrepreneurs that we've seen in more than 10 years, because they're going to make their own job. And it's already happening. This example from Jasper, this example from Huntsville, Maddie, a high school senior, expanding her businesses during this downtime in downtown Huntsville. And just down the road in Calera, at Galore Moore, I believe it is, I think it's a bakery or a cake business, just announced plans to open in downtown Calera. So it's already beginning to happen. To your benefit, you have a lot of these tools and different programs and different partnerships already in place to help support that entrepreneurial program. Do be thinking in terms of how we might continue to work with those partners to somehow intercept that growing pool of entrepreneurs. Again, this may be folks that are just beginning to think. They haven't thought about it in the past, but they're just beginning to think about it now as they consider events and what their job prospects look like moving forward. Again, would also refer you back to the resource team, which provided a lot of ideas for how we might promote those opportunities. Now, in terms of what types of businesses we might be looking for to join the mix, I want to share a few different ideas with you that come directly from information we mined as part of the survey, as well as the observations that we've been able to make during our visits to the district over the course of the last 6 months or so. Green Acres, by far and away, that is the business that folks identify with as an anchor. So as we think about new entries, different types of businesses that could be part of a mix, it might start there in thinking about those customers that are already being generated by businesses like Green Acres. The other important piece of this, though, and this has fascinated me ever since, well, even before I first set foot in the district, it's what happens and that market that exists on a daily basis. And what we're showing you here is within a 3-minute drive of where the Urban Impact team is sitting right now, we have a permanent population, a household population of 1,703 households. And I think it works out to somewhere just over 3,000 or 4,000 in terms of actual population. But what happens, you see in that lower graphic, is on a daily basis, it swells to over 27,000 people that are working just steps from the Urban Impact Office and the core of the district. And this has fascinated me, as I mentioned, even before I ever had a chance to step foot in the district. So we're not going to do a deep dive here, but one of the extra steps that we did take, because in researching all the past studies and looking at all the work that had been done by others in the past, and I'm not dissing any of them, the one piece that I didn't see was a profile of who those people are, that population of 27, who they are in terms of their profile, in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of their household income. So here's just a slice of the information that we were able to mine for you. And when you have a chance to dig into this a little bit deeper, one of the things that you'll notice is the 3 different groups, segments that were identified as part of that population. And it represents those three that I'm showing here: country squires, big sky families, and township travelers. It represents somewhere around 15, 16% of all the folks, that 27,000. You can see they have household incomes ranging from 80,000 to upwards of $120,000 or more. And not that this is true of that entire population of 27,000 workers, but it certainly is a contrast to what others might perceive as being the market for the district. Fact is, they're already doing business in the district, and it's reflected here in terms of the total sales numbers. Within that same 3-minute drive, there's $210 million being transacted in sales. And so you begin to ask yourself, where? Because we're not necessarily seeing it in the core of the district today, and you ask where. And I would suggest that it's being done within a stone's throw, within just a short few steps of the core of the district. And so one of the real keys is, how do we get these folks to walk another half block or a block or a block and a half? And part of that is simply going to be responding to what they identified as their needs. So we asked we asked all the consumers to identify what might be types of businesses that would make them most likely to visit the 4th Avenue district more often. In terms of eating and drinking places, 40% chose a breakfast and brunch restaurant, and you can see the others that followed there. Anything above 20% here, where 1 in 5 is indicating some interest, suggests to us that there's some real opportunity. And not that this is a silver bullet in any way, but at least it provides us some direction in terms of the types of businesses that would seem to have some potential traction, both with the local population as well as that 27,000 plus daytime population residing just half a block or a block away from the doorstep of the district. So we want to be ready for investors as well. And it will be in part due to the misfortune of some. But at the same time, we know that there are opportunities that exist even today. We have buildings that are underutilized, buildings that are vacant. At the same time, when we ask consumers, again, out of those 10 different statements we made, tell us on a scale of 1 to 5 your level of agreement. Look at this. The district is a good place to invest. It was number 2 out of those 10 attributes. Remember, 5 is the highest number that could be ascribed here, and that's if everyone said it was of highest, they had the highest level of agreement. So we want to be able we want to make sure that we're telling the story, that we're spreading the fact that there is confidence growing here. We've provided you some tools to help you do that as part of this process, including the market snapshot document. This market study that we're covering in brevity here today, is along with a 4-page summary that we hope will slide very nicely into your collateral packet. You're already doing a wonderful job. I've actually used this example in different cities across the country to show folks how it should be done as we're identifying those opportunities. Do make sure that you have the other collateral in place, such as this simple little map from Aniston that just helps our prospects and our investors navigate the process, and share that information in a very simple way like Decatur does, both for business prospects as well as developers that talk about those different programs. A lot of that information already exists on the website today. Just take another look and make sure that folks can find it easily, and that even for those that might be taking on their first investment or just thinking about a business opportunity can navigate that. We also provided during the resource team some ideas for how we promote those opportunities, even out there on the street, with some different storefront treatments. So we'd certainly refer you back there. And do make sure that you're celebrating the successes as they arise. Use those testimonials to help tell the story, and again, demonstrate that this district is a prime place to invest. We talk a lot about retail. By the very nature of this study, it's largely emphasizing the retail and eating and drinking uses, but don't want to overlook the importance of office and service uses. When we asked survey respondents, what brings them to the district on a most frequent basis, you can see it's actually doing errands and visiting offices and service-related places that brings those survey respondents down on the most frequent basis. 1 in 5 indicated that they're there either daily or weekly in the district to do errands and office and service-related purposes. So it just demonstrates the importance and suggests that these kinds of uses should always be part of the mix for a vibrant 4th Avenue business district. It would be difficult to imagine the district without those uses. And do be thinking about housing too. This one is astounding. When we asked consumers, would you consider living in the district? 65% said either yes or maybe. 65%, almost 2 in 3 said yes or maybe. That is astounding. The other piece of that is look at what might be a potential or a profile, a snapshot of the demographic characteristics of that potential market. And this comes directly from the study. You can see that there's certainly an emphasis, a want for loft style housing units. 65% of those indicating yes or maybe fall in that 25 to 54-year age range. And 40% have a household income of $100,000 or more. I think to some extent, this begins to provide a little different notion of opportunities for housing in the district and what that could look like. And it might be something very different than the kinds of housing that exist even in the nearby area today. And I'm just showing you some examples from other communities that apply to that very type of profile that identified themselves as part of the study. So as we wrap up, again, just want to emphasize as we do move forward and in the near term, but for the long term as well, it really does, as you think about the challenges that lie ahead, it really does bring to light the essential role that urban impact is playing and will continue to play. We want to remind everyone as we share some of these ideas, and especially those that came from the Reopen Main Street project that we put together. They're just that, they're ideas. We've only scratched the surface. If you haven't been to the site, would certainly invite you there. There's somewhere approaching 100 or maybe more than 100 different ideas for businesses as they progress through these different reopening phases. And so we want to make that available to you as an ongoing resource. We have it structured in a way that businesses can easily find information, and for urban impact as well as their partners and others that are part of the effort in the district, we've provided some ideas for you as well. We're doing our best to keep that site updated. We've just added some additional resources to the resources tab within the last week or so. But Facebook is also one of the best places to go, where we're sharing different examples along the way. If you haven't been, you can become part of our 400, almost 500 strong community that's sharing ideas there. So I'd certainly invite you to look us up there as well. So how did I do time-wise?
47.
You did
47?
Yeah. Is that a record for you, Jay?
It may be close. It may be very close.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think it was very timely to start with Reopen Main Street. So with the time that we have remaining, because as we speak, there has been a community cleanup effort that has formed, and go and try to participate in that. But I wanted to leave this time for any questions, and I do want to remind the folks on the call the documents that Jay described are all available online. I did get a text in. If someone wanted to talk to you directly, do they do that through Mary or just come directly to you, Jay, if they had questions specific to their property or business?
I think Mary probably has enough to keep her busy right now too. So I would just invite them to catch up with me.
Okay.
Either give me a call. I don't know if I had the telephone number on there. It's 615-236-6082, or shoot me an email at j@downtownpros.com.
Good deal. So open for any questions at this time, if anybody have any questions.
Hey, Daryl, this is Herschel. I've got a quick question to you, Jay. You said there was $210 million in sales within this radius or within the market area.
Yeah.
Does that primarily coming from the core of the CBD, like 20th and 5th areas, or is it more broadly based? And then does that $210 million include salaries, or is that just spend from that 27,000 people who are in there on a daily basis?
Yeah. So let me take the first part of that, Herschel, and thank you for joining us today and for the question too. Herschel, that $210 million is for what I believe was the 3-minute drive time area that essentially originates from right about where the Urban Impact Office is located. Now, it doesn't provide a map of precisely where that's being generated. I will just say that as an outside observer, having a chance to study the aerials and also walk the district many different times in the surrounding area, that to me, it would be apparent that the majority of those sales are coming from locations directly east and southeast of where the Urban Impact Office is located. But the fact of the matter is that I would also go so far as to say that it's in some cases just a short half-block walk or walk from what could be captured within that district. I guess one way of saying that is that I don't think that today we're capturing anything near the potential that we could in the district, but it's there. It's just a short walk away. Mm-hmm. So that's the first part of that. Now, my memory isn't what it used to be. I'm trying to recall the second part of that. Daryl or Herschel, can you help me out?
Does that 210 include salaries, or is that just
right?
spending?
Right.
Yes.
No, it does not include salaries. That is purely consumer spending in the retail and eating and drinking or restaurant categories.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Jay, while they're waiting, can you talk about what materials they probably already have received as deliverables and how those could be distributed to businesses to help them?
Sure. And I don't know if you could hear Mary from across the room. We are social distancing here. Mary asked me just to take a moment to talk about the deliverables that you already have in hand. I had displayed some of them earlier. So we have the full, what we call the full study. Now, the full study isn't the encyclopedia version that we used to generate years ago. I think it's about somewhere between 20 and 25 pages. And it includes both numbers and photos to keep everybody happy. But we also then delivered a 4-page version of that. It's meant to be just a way for folks to dip their toe into the information and serve as more of that promotional piece. So that might be that first piece that Daryl and the team throw down as they're meeting with business owners, property owners, prospects, prospective investors, just to give a sense, a flavor for the kinds of information that is available. We'll also be providing, after we wrap up here, a PDF version of the slides that I just showed you. To the extent that might be helpful, you'll have that. The team also has all of the detailed survey information as well. So within the study reports, we've done our best to summarize and give the very best sampling flavor. But for those that really want to dig deep, we have the original survey results along with 30 or 40 pages of secondary market data that come from Esri and Claritas. So in other words, Herschel, that $210 million number that I threw at you, that actually comes from the Claritas retail market report, retail opportunity report. If you'd like to dig deep into that, you can actually see the distribution of that $210 million across upwards of 70 or 80 different retail and eating and drinking categories and subcategories. So that might be something that you want to ask Daryl to send your way in. Daryl, if you have any problem finding any of that stuff, because I know this has occurred over a long time, you just know where to find me.
Yeah, will do. Will do.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, going once.
Well, Daryl, before you shut it down, let me just share one more thing if I can. Working with you, Daryl, with Elijah, Ivan, and the team at Urban Impact has really been a fascinating experience. And again, you know my heart. I say that in the most fond way. Just know that as far as I'm concerned, even after we say goodbye here today, it's not goodbye. I feel like our work isn't finished. So to the extent that I can be of help, and you know that Mary is always here and going to be right there with us, working in partnership. Just know that, again, our work isn't done. In a lot of ways, I think it's just beginning. So to the extent that we can be of help, please do call on us. And especially today and in the days ahead, know that our thoughts are with us, with you, our prayers are with you, and we are pulling for you every step of the way.
Jay, we really appreciate that. And you're going nowhere no time soon. You're on the team now, dude. So, and I know where to find you. So
Yes,
I appreciate it and all of your work. I know you guys are doing a couple of these road shows. So if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and give you back, 5 minutes of your time early. And I appreciate those, especially in the midst of what we're going through, taking time to join the call today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Be safe.
What do you think? Hopefully they got something out of it.
I hope so. How do you think it went?